To survive, a single mother accepts a job bathing a paraplegic millionaire. But what happens next is something you could never imagine. Stay and find out. Aboard an elegant Bentley Bentayga EW, its deep sapphire blue color reflecting the serenity of the Icelandic landscape, Miguel Laric Ramos drove in silence. His gaze remained fixed on the winding road skirting the Jökull Sarlon Lake, surrounded by Iceland's imposing snow-capped peaks. Everything seemed perfect, like an unattainable dream. Beside him, his fiancée, Florencia, was engrossed in her phone, her perfectly manicured fingers tapping impatiently on the screen. Sometimes, those who should care for what truly matters end up stripping away our petals, Miguel said enigmatically, as if speaking more to himself than to her. Florencia glanced at him without stopping her tapping, her eyes full of disdain. Eventually, her voice cut through the cabin's silence. "We've been together for over a year, Miguel. What are you waiting for to formalize this? Or is it that you have no intention of marrying me?" The question was laden with insecurity and frustration. Miguel sighed, keeping his eyes on the road, as though the answer lay ahead rather than in his words. "Isn't the Bentley, the trip to Iceland, and the ring on your finger proof enough of my intentions? At what point did I deviate from your engagement manual?" His tone was soft, but tinged with palpable discomfort. Florencia let out a huff, impatience etched across her face. "Do you really think a Bentley and a glacier trip are enough to make up for a year of waiting? That's not what I expect from you. This is just an exotic pastime between your luxury getaways and business escapades. If you were serious, we'd be planning a wedding, not driving through frozen lands in a car." Miguel's face hardened, but his hands gripped the steering wheel with a slight tremble. His eyes met Florencia's for an instant, but he said nothing. In his mind, something was breaking. "I thought you understood something basic, Florencia. Love isn't defined by a contract, but by how we share the journey, how we walk together. And sometimes I wonder if we're even heading in the same direction," he said softly, a mix of exhaustion and disillusionment in his voice. Florencia turned to him, her eyes ablaze with fury.
Of course, as always, your life is the only one that matters. Talking about walking together is easy when everything is planned according to your whims.
The argument escalated. Florencia's words and accusations flew mercilessly, oblivious to the fact that Miguel, distracted by the exchange, had begun veering the vehicle. The curve was sharp, and in an instant a truck appeared, its headlights glaring like two giant eyes in the darkness. It was then that Miguel grasped the gravity of the moment. His instincts kicked in immediately. With a sharp turn of the wheel, he swerved the Bentley to the side, seeking to absorb the truck's impact on the driver's side. In that brief instant, as the roar of the engine and the screeching brakes mingled, Miguel's only thought was to protect Florencia. The pain, the harsh words, they didn't matter. All he wanted was for her to be safe. The impact was brutal. A deafening crash echoed in his ears and everything plunged into blackness. Hours later, the cold, blinding light of the emergency room made him squint. Miguel lay motionless in a hospital bed. The doctors, with somber professionalism, explained the extent of his injuries. "The damage to your spinal cord is severe," the doctor said gravely. "Unfortunately, the mobility of your legs has been permanently lost." Florencia, seated nearby, seemed distant, more preoccupied with her reflection in a small, compact mirror than with the doctor's words. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow, devoid of any genuine emotion. "This is terrible," she murmured, but her gaze remained fixed on her reflection. "But I suppose we can fix it. Maybe I'll hire a renowned physiotherapist." Miguel closed his eyes, offering no reply. A shadow of pain crossed his face, but his expression remained unchanged. Had it been worth it? The sacrifice? Everything had changed in an instant. Miguel's life, now reduced to an abyss of physical and emotional pain, forced him to confront the harshest truth. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to gain clarity about what truly matters. Miguel's family received the news of their son's accident and rushed to the hospital. As soon as they saw the doctor, they urgently asked, "How is our son, doctor? Is his condition serious? If something were to happen to him, what would we do? Two distressed old people?" "Please calm down," the doctor replied in a calm tone. "Your son is stable. The patient, Miguel Romas, is in room 402. You can go see him, And don't forget to thank the young man who saved your son's life. He's just a child, but he showed admirable bravery." With these words, the doctor turned and walked away. The hurried footsteps echoed in the spotless halls of the luxurious private hospital, where the cold neon lights illuminated every corner immaculately. Clara and Eduardo, an influential and wealthy couple from Madrid, could not hide their concern and anxiety. Clara, usually serene, clutched her expensive purse tightly, as if seeking support in something tangible. Eduardo, always the model of composure, walked back and forth, impatiently glancing at his watch, as if he could speed up time. Miguel, their only son, lay unconscious on a bed as white as snow, with a pale face and visible bruises on his forehead that seemed like daggers stabbing his parents' hearts. The monitors emitted regular beeps, reflecting a fragile heartbeat. Suddenly, the door to the room slowly opened. A 10-year-old boy with messy black hair and simple worn clothes entered with hesitant steps and large, shy eyes. Behind him, a woman, evidently his mother, accompanied him with a nervous but firm expression. Clara turned around, her eyes red from tears, but maintaining her composure. Eduardo furrowed his brow, intrigued by the presence of two strangers in that private room. The woman spoke first with a soft but clear voice.
"Sorry to bother you. My son, he wanted to come visit Miguel."
Clara was taken aback. Eduardo raised an eyebrow, silently observing the boy. The boy slightly tilted his head, intertwining his hands in front of him before timidly saying,
"I'm the one who pulled him out of the way when the car was coming. I didn't know he had been hit so hard."
The room fell silent. The boy's simple words echoed like a bell, dispelling the tense atmosphere. Clara placed a hand on her mouth, unable to hide her surprise. Eduardo stared intently at the child, trying to confirm the truth of his story. The boy's mother continued, with pride mixed with a slight shyness in her eyes. "We didn't want to cause trouble, but he insisted on coming to make sure the young man was okay." Instinctively, Clara approached the boy, kneeling to his height. She looked into his clear eyes, as if finding a glimmer of hope amidst her worries. "What's your name?" she asked softly.
Andres, ma'am.
A brief silence passed before Clara, her voice trembling, said,
"Thank you, Andres. Without you..."
She couldn't continue, choked by emotion. Eduardo moved, gave a softer look to his wife, then slightly nodded at the boy and his mother. "Our family owes you a debt we'll never be able to repay." Andres lowered his head, his face reddened with embarrassment. The boy's mother smiled gently, placing a reassuring hand on her son's shoulder. In the dim light of the room, among the medical equipment and the scent of disinfectant, this encounter might have marked the beginning of a change in Andres and his mother's lives. 2 days later, Andres was still visiting Miguel, waiting for him to wake up. One morning, with the weak sunlight filtering through the curtains, Andres noticed a slight movement in Miguel's fingers. Soon after, Miguel's eyes slowly opened. Andres exclaimed excitedly, "Everyone! Miguel has woken up!" The room, filled with a warm, familiar atmosphere and a faint scent of old pine, came to life. Clara tightly held her son's hand, her eyes shining with tears of uncontrollable happiness. "Miguel, darling, you're awake," she said between sobs of relief and joy. Eduardo, who had been sitting in a corner with a tired but hopeful look, stood up immediately. "Son, thank God. You had us so worried," he said, gently placing his strong hands on Miguel's shoulders. Miguel, his brow furrowed from the pain coursing through his body, quickly focused his attention on his parents' faces. His eyes caught the wrinkles that seemed to have deepened on their faces after 2 days of sleeplessness, but in those gazes, there was love and a deep relief that couldn't be denied. "How long have I been asleep?" Miguel asked, his voice hoarse. "Just 2 days, but it felt like an eternity," said Doña Clara, gently stroking his tangled hair. "The doctor says you're out of danger. You don't know how much we've prayed to reach this moment." Miguel felt the warmth of his mother's hands, a detail he had never noticed so much before. A strange feeling filled his chest, the feeling of having been given a second chance. Don Eduardo looked at Clara, his voice low but filled with emotion. "We have to share this wonderful news. Miguel has woken up. It's a miracle." Doña Clara nodded but didn't want to take her hands off her son. "Just one more moment, Eduardo. I want to make sure he's okay." Miguel smiled weakly. I'm fine, Mom. Thanks for being here with me. The three of them stayed together, needing no more words. In that moment, the silence spoke for them all. Joy, relief, and an indescribable love.
But Mom, said Miguel suddenly, can you turn on the light? It's so dark I can't see you properly. I want to see the one who saved me so I can thank him later.
Miguel, what are you saying? Turn on the light? But it's already 10 in the morning, honey. How could it be dark? 10 in the morning? Mom, don't joke with me. It all looks like midnight. It's dark, very dark. Mom, turn on the light, please. I'm scared, Miguel shouted, unable to hold back. Doña Clara hugged him, sobbing. Eduardo, go get the doctor. What's happening to our son? How can he not see anything? Don Eduardo, distressed, exclaimed, My God, how did we get to this? And hurriedly left to find the doctor for help. After conducting an examination and an X-ray, Dr. Garcia came to a conclusion. Miguel has suffered temporary blindness due to head trauma and work-related stress. Miguel remained silent, sitting on his bed with his eyes closed, as if trying to deny the reality he faced. His parents, Don Eduardo and Doña Clara, sat beside him, their faces reflecting deep concern. Dr. Garcia, a middle-aged man with kind eyes but burdened with gravity, slowly took off his glasses and placed them on the table before sighing softly. Miguel, he said, in a grave but calm voice, with words that cut the air like knives. The trauma to your head, along with prolonged work-related stress, has caused temporary damage to your optic nerve. This means that, for now, you won't be able to see. Miguel felt as if his entire world were collapsing. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but his hands gripped the edge of the bed tightly. "How long will this last, doctor?" he asked with a trembling voice. "It will depend on your recovery," replied the doctor, looking at Miguel with empathy. "It's possible that your vision will return in a few months, but it could take longer if you don't rest properly and follow the treatment." Doña Clara burst into tears, her tears running down her thin cheeks. "Miguel, my son, it's because you worked too much. I told you, I warned you," she said through sobs. Don Eduardo, always as calm as a rock, now showed a rare expression of confusion. He approached Miguel and placed a firm hand on his shoulder, squeezing it as if he wanted to convey strength. "Miguel, I'm so sorry. I pushed you too hard. I didn't pay attention to how you were feeling, and all of this is my fault. But you have to be strong. We'll get through this together. Work doesn't matter more than your health. We are here for you." Miguel nodded, but his heart was in chaos. He felt the pain of his parents, but even more so, an overwhelming sense of helplessness and fear. Not being able to see wasn't just losing light. It was losing his freedom, his autonomy, that which he had always been proud of. Dr. Garcia broke the heavy silence. "Miguel, the most important thing now is for you to rest completely and avoid stress. You need to trust yourself and the recovery process." Miguel didn't respond. He just nodded slightly. In his mind, images of his life passed like a slow-motion movie. The days of incessant work, the pressure-filled meetings, and the long, lonely nights in his apartment. He realized that sometimes light isn't just in the eyes, but also in the heart and in the people who love you. Doña Clara took his hand, trembling but warm. "Your father and I will always be here, Miguel. You're not alone." Suddenly, from the door, little Andres ran toward Miguel's bed. Gently, he placed a paper crane in Miguel's hand. "Uncle, I heard the whole story. I was the one who pushed you that night, and that's why you can't see now. I'm really sorry." Miguel, deeply moved, reached for the boy's face with his fingers and caressed his cheek. "It's okay, Andres. Don't blame yourself. If you hadn't been there, I wouldn't be alive right now, so this is nothing compared to that." The boy offered him the paper crane. "I'm giving you this crane, Uncle. I hope you recover your sight soon, so you can see this crane and how beautiful the world outside is." Miguel smiled. His heart was full of emotion. It was as if God had blinded his eyes but allowed him to see something much deeper. The beauty of the world, the love of his parents, and the miracle of life itself. The car glided silently through the large iron gates as the darkness enveloped the moss-covered stone walls of the mansion like a grim veil. The gates closed automatically behind them, emitting a prolonged squeal, a sound that seemed to resonate from the bowels of the earth. Miguel remained still in the back seat, his gaze lost through the window, where the old olive trees bent under the cold wind of early winter. Above them, the sky, heavy and gray, seemed to promise a great storm. Miguel's father, Don Eduardo, was the first to get out of the car. He walked slowly but firmly. His tall, robust figure now showed a slight stoop, but his eyes remained piercing and full of authority. He extended his hand to help Miguel, his hands rough and calloused but determined. Miguel's mother, Doña Isabel, gently draped an arm around her son's shoulders, her voice warm but filled with unease.
"Be careful, Miguel," she whispered, her voice fading into the silent air.
Miguel stepped out of the car, feeling the unstable ground beneath him, staggering slightly. He tried to keep his balance, but the long days in the hospital had weakened his legs. A sharp pain in his hip reminded him of the wound still unhealed. He gritted his teeth, determined not to show any weakness in front of his parents.
The path leading to the mansion was covered with gravel, and each of their steps made a slight crunch underfoot. Inside, the warm light from the chandeliers reflected through the large windows, creating a peculiar contrast with the cold of the night outside.
As they entered the main hall, a warm air from the large fireplace in the living room enveloped them. The flames danced brightly, as if welcoming Miguel, but to him, everything felt strange. The mansion, which once symbolized the power and glory of his family, now only evoked a sense of emptiness and an overwhelming weight.
Don Eduardo guided Miguel to a large armchair near the fireplace where he sat with the help of his mother. Doña Isabel knelt beside him, gently running her hand through his hair, her eyes full of concern and love.
"Miguel, you need to rest," she whispered, but Miguel only nodded slightly, without responding. From a distance, Don Eduardo, leaning on the fireplace, stared at Miguel intently, as if evaluating something.
"Son, our family has been through a lot, but this is not the time for weakness. We will overcome it."
Miguel lifted his head, his eyes reflecting a cold but firm determination. He knew that what awaited him wouldn't be easy, but deep down, his pride and will remained intact.
The mansion fell silent. Only the howling wind through the windows and the crackling of firewood in the hearth could be heard. A new chapter in Miguel's life had just begun, and he knew he had to prepare to face all the challenges ahead.
The next morning, the soft light of the sun filtered through the leaves of the orange trees in front of the window of a small cafe on the corner of the street. Doña Clara entered the place with her characteristic elegance. Her light blue dress and the silk scarf softly tied around her neck made her appear like a noble lady, yet without pretensions. Her eyes reflected a mix of tension and determination. Anna had already arrived early, sitting neatly at a small table in the corner, her hands gripping a steaming cup of coffee. Her simple beige dress was somewhat worn, but the warmth in her gaze conveyed a sense of comfort. Upon seeing Doña Clara approach, Anna stood up shyly to greet her. "Miss Anna, thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Doña Clara began, with a warm and sincere voice. She pulled out the chair and sat down across from Anna, her eyes never leaving her, as if trying to calm her nerves. "It's my pleasure, ma'am." "It's nice to meet you," Anna replied softly, as her hands unconsciously adjusted the scarf around her neck. After a few polite greetings, Doña Clara got straight to the point. "Anna, I want to talk about Andrés. Your son truly saved my son's life, and my family will never forget it, but today I want to discuss an opportunity for both of you."
Anna frowned slightly, listening attentively.
As you know, my husband and I are about to take on the management of Miguel's company. This means we will be very busy and won't be able to care for him as we did before. I've been thinking a lot, and I would like to invite you and your son to live and work in my home.
Anna was taken aback, stepping back slightly. "Work? You mean—"
"You would help me manage the household tasks, and Andrés could be near Miguel. I want the boy to be like a companion who helps Miguel regain his spirits. In addition, we would cover all living expenses, pay you a good salary, and most importantly, I want Andrés to be able to attend school as he should." These last words left Anna in silence. Her eyes widened as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. Her current situation was complicated, with all expenses relying on sporadic jobs, and the dream of sending Andrés to school seemed more and more distant. "But won't this be too much for your family?" Anna stammered, still doubtful. "No, Anna. My family owes much to the boy, and I think this is the right thing to do. I also want to help you have a new beginning,
I'm not pressuring you, but please consider it. This is a sincere invitation from the bottom of my heart." Anna lowered her gaze, her heart filled with mixed emotions. This opportunity was like a light at the end of the tunnel, but she didn't want to become a burden. "I need some time to think about it, ma'am."
Of course! Take your time. I hope we can do this together, for the benefit of both parties. Clara smiled, her gaze full of understanding.
The two women continued conversing for a while longer before leaving the cafe. Anna stepped out onto the street, the morning sunlight illuminating her face, filled with both unease and hope. Clara's proposal was not only a change of life, but a doorway to a better future for Andres. A few days later, after Anna had spoken with little Andres about moving to Clara's house and taking care of Miguel, and Andres had agreed, Anna decided to present herself personally to Mrs. Clara. Mrs. Clara welcomed her with a warm smile, her eyes reflecting an anticipatory understanding of Anna's decision.
"Have you made a decision?" she asked, her voice calm but full of expectation.
"Yes, ma'am, I agree," Anna replied, standing straight as if to affirm her dignity. "But I have a request. I want to work in a way that is worthy of what your family has offered us." Mrs. Clara smiled, approached, and placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. "Don't worry. I'm sure we'll achieve the best together." That same morning, Anna began her work after she and her son moved to the luxurious mansion. Her first task was to help Miguel with his personal hygiene. Miguel, unaware of Anna and Andres' arrival, was still deeply asleep in his room. Anna gently knocked on Miguel's door before entering slowly. Seeing him still asleep, she approached the windows and drew the curtains. The sunlight flooded the room, filling it with a fresh, revitalizing glow. Anna carefully approached Miguel's side and softly woke him.
"Good morning, Mr. Miguel. It's time to get up, young master."
Miguel opened his eyes, still immersed in the drowsiness of sleep. However, in front of him, everything was still dark. With a mix of curiosity and alarm in his voice, he asked, "Who's there? Who's in my room?" "It's Anna, Andres' mother, the boy who saved your life in the accident. We're here by your mother's invitation, Mrs. Clara. From today on, I'll be taking care of you, and my son Andres will be your companion on this difficult journey." "Oh, if my mother has decided so, I have no objections. Thank you for looking after me. I suppose this will be difficult for you?" Anna gave a faint smile and replied, "Come, let me help you get cleaned up, and then I'll take you to the dining room for breakfast. It seems your housekeeper has prepared a delicious feast for you." With that, Anna moved closer to the bed and helped Miguel sit up and head toward the bathroom. As she supported him by the arm, she noticed how thin and cold he was. "Don't worry, I'll be careful," she reassured him. Miguel didn't respond, letting Anna guide him. They crossed a long hallway, dimly lit by the light filtering through the lace curtains. Each of Miguel's steps was hesitant, as if he feared stumbling in the perpetual darkness that surrounded him. When they reached the bathroom, Anna turned on the light and the glow reflected off the white marble walls. The cold of the floor seeped through to their feet. Anna turned to help Miguel remove his clothes. Though she had tried to prepare herself, she felt a slight discomfort, which quickly faded as she saw the deep scars on his body, traces of a past filled with hardship. With a damp cloth, she began to wash him carefully. "Is the water at a good temperature?" she asked, observing him closely. Miguel nodded slightly, without saying a word. Each of Anna's movements was slow and meticulous, as though she feared causing more pain to a man who had already suffered too much. The scars on his skin not only told a physical story, but also a silent account of a tormented soul. "You're doing very well," Miguel suddenly said in a hoarse voice, breaking the silence. These simple words made Anna look up. His eyes, unable to see, stared into the void, but Anna felt the sincerity in every word. "It's my duty, sir," she replied, though her heart skipped a beat. Anna understood that between them, a fragile bond had been woven, and from that moment on, their lives would change forever in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The bathroom was spacious, with light filtering through the frosted glass window, casting undulating patterns on the tiled walls. Anna gently washed away the stains from Miguel's skin, her hands both firm and tender, as if she were wiping away the sad memories from his mind. Miguel sat motionless, his gaze distant, fixed on the sink where a soft towel was ready. Anna scooped up a bowl of warm water, letting the stream glide over his hair, speaking softly as she worked, as if only her voice could fill the silence between them.
When everything was done, Ana wrapped Miguel in a towel and gently patted his shoulder. "All done, Miguel. Shall we go downstairs for breakfast?" Her voice was soft, like a mother's invitation to her well-behaved child. Miguel nodded slowly, his eyes still not fully grounded in the present. Supporting Miguel, they walked down the long hallway, his feet heavy, as if no longer familiar with the cold floor beneath. Ana whispered encouragement with each step, one hand holding his elbow, the other around his shoulder, forming a safe anchor for him. The smell of toasted bread and coffee rose from the small kitchen downstairs, like a greeting to the master of the house, returning after the accident. In the dining room, the chef had already set out breakfast: crispy toast, butter, peach jam, and a steaming bowl of soup. The white tablecloth made everything look simple yet warm. Ana pulled out a chair carefully for Miguel to sit down, then quietly poured him a cup of coffee. Miguel slowly raised his spoon, but his hand trembled. Seeing this, Ana bent down to spread butter on a piece of bread and handed it to him. "Here you go, Miguel. Be careful." "Sit down and eat with me, Ana," Miguel said softly. "I'll eat later, sir. Andres and I will have breakfast together when he wakes up," Ana skillfully declined. "Please sit down and eat with me. When Andres wakes up, I'll have a proper breakfast prepared for him. Don't refuse me," Miguel said with a warm smile. Left with no choice, Ana gently pulled out a chair and sat down to eat with Miguel. The meal went on with lively conversation as Ana and Miguel exchanged much about each other. "So, Ana, how long have you been in Madrid?" Miguel asked. "Not very long, about a year. I came from Salamanca after divorcing my abusive and unfaithful husband. I came here with my son to start over and make a living," Ana replied. Miguel nodded thoughtfully. "Madrid can be a tough place to live if you don't have support. Have you gotten used to the rhythm of life here?" "There are still many things that feel strange, but maybe God had mercy on me and allowed me to encounter a lot of good fortune and kind people, like you, for example. Today is my first day working in your home, and you've invited me for breakfast. I really appreciate it," Ana said. Miguel smiled lightly. "I haven't done anything special. You remind me of my mother. She also cared for others with the same attentiveness and gentleness. I think sometimes just having someone there at the right moment is enough to make everything better." Ana looked surprised. "Really? Your mother must have been a wonderful woman." Miguel nodded. "Yes, she was the most important person in my life. But never mind. I don't want to burden you with my story. Tell me more about yourself. What's your family like? Your ex-husband sounds awful." Ana hesitated for a moment. "My ex-husband was arranged by my parents. His family was rich, so my parents sold me to them under the guise of marriage in order to get the dowry money to pay off their debts. I worked like a servant for his family. If I ever displeased him, he would beat me to vent his anger." At this point, her voice faltered slightly. "And because I couldn't take it anymore, when my son got older, I insisted on divorcing him and moving up here to live. My parents tried to stop me, and his family pressured mine to make me return, but I stayed firm, and now I've cut off all contact with them." Miguel listened, sensing Ana's sorrow, and gently asked, "You must have been very scared, right?" Ana nodded. "Yes, but now it's all right. After a year here, I've gotten used to many things. Now, with a good salary working in your house, my son and I will be fine."
Miguel smiled approvingly. "You really are a strong woman. I don't know if I could be as resilient as you. But if you ever need anything, just let me know. Don't hesitate."
"Thank you, Miguel. Your words truly warm my heart," Ana replied. The conversation continued, filled with light laughter and genuine empathy. The small kitchen seemed warmer, as if the two souls, from two different paths, had just found a point where their roads intersected. After a brief conversation with Ana this morning, the first in a long time, Miguel felt something strange. It was not despair, nor disappointment, nor stagnation like before. It was a light, peculiar feeling, like a faint glimmer of light flickering in the darkness. A bit of hope, though fragile, was enough to make his heart beat strongly with a vitality he thought he had lost long ago. He whispered to himself, as if afraid that admitting it would make everything vanish. Miguel couldn't believe that such simple words could touch him in that way. In the dim light of the late afternoon, Miguel's small room was filled with a quiet atmosphere. He sat by the window, his eyes unable to follow the last rays of the day slowly falling, but his ears were becoming more attuned to the sounds of nature outside. The long shadows of the trees by the roadside cast on the opposite wall, like the spontaneous brushstrokes of nature. Miguel sat there, listening to the sounds of life, of nature. It had been a long time since he had felt the peace and freedom of his soul like this. Suddenly, a gentle but persistent knock broke the silence. Miguel frowned, put his cup of tea down on the table, and tilted his head to listen. A young voice came from outside. "Uncle Miguel, can I come in and play with you? It's Andres." Miguel turned toward the door where the sound had come from, slowly stood up, walked over to the door, and opened it. Andres, a 10-year-old boy with messy black hair and bright eyes, stood there holding a small toy truck. His face showed eagerness, but his bouncing legs revealed his nervousness. "Mom told me to come play with you. I'll find a way to make you feel better during this time. You won't mind if I play with you, right?" Miguel smiled. "Sure, come in," the boy exclaimed, stepping into the room with the excitement of someone discovering a new world. Andres's eyes darted around, taking in every detail, from the wooden desk piled with papers to the messy bookshelf. Meanwhile, Miguel stood still, feeling a strange sensation in his heart, as if the darkness in the room had been lit up by a small, unexpected spark. Everything continued to pass peacefully like that. Day by day, under the attentive care of Ana and the innocent obedience of Andres, Miguel's mood improved a lot. Over time, as they spent more time together, Ana and Miguel's feelings for each other gradually developed. Mr. and Mrs. Gomes were very happy about this, and their family's work also became much smoother. Every time Ana, Miguel, and Andres were together, Mr. and Mrs. Gomes looked at the picture frame in front of them, which seemed so peaceful, as if they were a real married couple. The rumors about Ana and Miguel spread far and wide, and although the Gomes couple knew, perhaps they had silently accepted Ana, so they didn't really care much about it. Everyone thought everything would remain peaceful until Miguel's health fully recovered, but who could have known that everything was just calm before the storm? One beautiful morning, while Ana was cleaning, Miguel sat on the chair playing with Andres. Suddenly, a girl appeared at the door, walked straight in, and without a word, she hugged Miguel. With a tearful voice, she said, "Miguel, are you okay? I heard you had an accident, but I was in Bali with my family, so I couldn't come to you immediately. How are you now? Can you see again? Are you still in pain?" "Florencia, I thought we were over. What are you doing here?" Miguel asked, surprised. "Over? Really? Don't tell me you're still angry with me about what happened 2 months ago." Florencia pouted. "Go back, Florencia. We ended things that day. Now we're like strangers. My family has overcome the difficulties without any help from your family. What else is there for us to talk about?"
Miguel,
Florencia said angrily, standing up.
how dare you talk to me like that? Is there another girl in your heart just like everyone's gossiping about?
"Yes, I've fallen for another girl, but it's none of your business. Just leave," Miguel said firmly. "Fine, I'll keep my eyes open to see how long you two will be happy," Florencia stormed out.
After Florencia left, the joyful atmosphere from before vanished, and everything became much quieter. Miguel noticed the silence and spoke to calm things down. "It's okay, Ana, Andres. She came here to cause trouble, but don't pay too much attention to her. Ana, go on with your work. I'll look after Andres." Ana nodded in agreement. The soft golden light from the chandelier poured down onto the table covered with a white lace tablecloth, making dinner look like a nostalgic painting. The aroma of cocido madrileño rose from the clay pot, mixing with the cracking sound of freshly baked bread, creating a cozy yet strangely tense atmosphere. Miguel's father, Mr. Teodoro, sat at the head of the table, his sharp but gentle eyes looking at his son. He coughed lightly, set his spoon down, and broke the silence. "Miguel, your mother and I have thought about it a lot. We both see Ana as a good girl who has taken care of you diligently during this time. We think that, when things settle down, it's time to think about arranging a wedding for you two." Ana, who was standing next to Miguel, looked up at him in surprise when she heard this from Mr. Teodoro. She quickly glanced at Miguel, hoping to find a signal in his eyes. Miguel lifted his face from the bowl of soup. He hesitated, his eyes slightly wavering, as if trying to control the beat of his heart. He looked at Anna, her cheeks rosy, and her eyes still fixed on him. A strange emotion welled up in his heart, sweet, yet restless, but also tinged with fear.
Mom. Miguel took a deep breath, his voice trembling slightly. I'm very grateful to Anna. She's not only a caregiver, but also my most important friend during this difficult time. Anna smiled softly, her hands clasped together on the table to suppress her emotions. She sensed that something between them had moved beyond polite words or gratitude. Miguel's mother, Mrs. Clara, spoke next, her voice gentle but determined. My dear, we know you have a lot of pride, but love is not just about responsibility or gratitude. If you feel the same way about Anna, then there's no reason to hesitate. Miguel fell silent, feeling as though each of his mother's words was loosening the knots in his heart. Finally, he turned to Anna, his eyes filled with all the things he had never dared to say. Anna, what do you think? Anna looked at him, her lips trembling, but the bright smile on her face spoke louder than words. In that warm kitchen, amidst the soft clinking of utensils and the flickering candlelight, dinner was not just a meal. It was the moment when two people opened up a new path for their hearts. Anna lowered her head as if pondering, but really to hide her teary eyes. All the emotions she had been trying to suppress, affection, hope, and the fear that Miguel might not feel the same, now surged within her like a wave. Miguel, she looked up, her voice soft but full of emotion. If this really comes from your heart, I will be very happy.
Miguel smiled, a smile that Anna had never seen before, genuine, gentle, and strangely determined. He reached across the table and took her hand. His fingers were rough but warm, and that handshake contained a promise that neither of them needed to speak out loud.
Miguel's father laughed heartily, his laughter echoing through the dining room as if to dispel all the tension.
Well, that's good. Finally, we have a reason to open that bottle of Rioja I've been keeping for years.
Clara, Miguel's mother, stood up, walked over to Anna, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Welcome to our family, Anna.
Anna didn't say anything. She just nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. In that moment, she felt that she had found a real family, a place to belong, not just because of love, but because of recognition and acceptance.
Dinner continued with lively conversation and laughter, but Miguel and Anna seemed to hear nothing else around them. They only had eyes for each other, as if wanting to hold on to this moment forever. When everyone stood up to clean up, Miguel held Anna back. He led her outside to the yard, where the moonlight stretched long across the old tiles. The scent of jasmine drifted on the night breeze, adding to the romantic atmosphere. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize, Miguel said, his voice sincere. But I know one thing for sure, Anna. You are the one I want by my side, not just in the hard times, but in the happy days to come.
Anna smiled gently and placed her hand over his.
I've been waiting for you to say this for a long time. And Miguel, I will always be here, with you. In the silver light of the Madrid night, Miguel bent down, and for the first time, the two of them shared a kiss, gentle, full of emotion, yet filled with countless promises for the future.
One morning, Miguel woke up to sunlight streaming through the window, golden like honey, spreading across the room. He opened his eyes, and immediately the early sunlight struck his eyes, causing him to squint, the blinding sensation filling his senses. In that moment, he realized the miracle. His vision had been restored. No longer was there a mist obscuring his sight. The world before him appeared clear, every detail visible, the leaves rustling in the wind, dust particles dancing in the beam of light. His heart raced, a mixture of astonishment and indescribable joy.
Miguel stood up, his legs trembling, as if unfamiliar with this unexpected joy. He walked toward the window where the golden light of the morning bathed the sky. His hand trembled as it touched the windowsill, his eyes never leaving the view outside. Each leaf on the olive tree sparkled in the morning sun, dewdrops hanging like crystals, all vivid, sharp, to the point that he felt like he was dreaming.
My God,
he whispered, his voice faltering with emotion. Miguel raised his hand to cover his eyes, then slowly lowered it, as if confirming that the light before him wasn't an illusion. He turned his head, looking around the room, the white walls, the old chair with faded upholstery, and the family photo on the table. Every little detail, every line on his mother's familiar face in the photo stirred up his emotions. Miguel laughed, his laughter echoing through the room, light and bright like the sunlight outside. He stepped outside into the yard, feeling the earth beneath his feet, the wind blowing through his hair, and lifting his head to look at the blue sky. "I can see again," Miguel shouted, his voice echoing, as if he wanted to share his joy with the whole world. Tears ran down his cheeks, not from sadness, but from pure happiness, filled with hope, like a spring song just beginning. Anna was standing in the kitchen, her hands skillfully stirring a pan of fragrant herbs, the smell filling the warm little space. The sudden shout from the yard startled her, causing her to stop and look outside. Her heart raced with concern. It was Miguel's voice, but not a cry of pain, rather, a sound full of light, strangely bright. She quickly placed the pan aside, wiped her hands on her apron, and ran to the door. The scene before her made Anna freeze in disbelief. Miguel was standing in the yard, his face turned toward the blue sky, his eyes glowing with joy, and the smile on his face brighter than ever before.
Miguel, what's going on? Anna exclaimed, walking quickly toward him.
Miguel turned around, his eyes meeting hers. For the first time in days, Anna felt the depth and clarity in his gaze, no longer dark or murky as before. "Anna, I can see again," Miguel said loudly, his voice hoarse with emotion, his arms outstretched as if to embrace the whole world. Anna stood still for a moment, then suddenly burst into laughter, tears falling without her even noticing.
Really? Miguel, oh my God! Really?
She rushed toward him, hugging him tightly, feeling the joy radiating from him. They both laughed, emotions swirling in their hearts as they shared an endless happiness. Anna pulled back slightly, looking at Miguel, her eyes glistening with joy. "This is a miracle, Miguel. Finally, everything is okay." She took his hand and led him to sit down on a chair in the yard. "Tell me, how did it happen?" Anna asked, her voice trembling but filled with excitement. "You don't know, love. I woke up and could see everything so clearly. I can see you now. I can see your beautiful face, Anna," Miguel said as he touched her face. "You're so beautiful, more than I imagined." "Where's Andres? I want to see Andres, our son. Where is he, Anna?" Anna couldn't contain her joy any longer. She ran quickly into the house, calling loudly, "Andres! Andres! Come here now!" Her voice rang out, full of excitement, making the kitchen feel alive with energy. Just a few seconds later, Andres, a little boy with messy brown hair, ran out from the room inside, his round eyes full of curiosity. "What's going on, Mom? Why are you so happy?" he asked, still holding tightly onto his wooden toy car. Anna bent down, placing both hands on her son's shoulders, her voice choked with emotion and excitement. "Miguel can see now. Go out and see. He wants to meet you." Andres raised an eyebrow in surprise, but his little legs quickly carried him out into the yard. Miguel was standing there, his eyes shining brightly as he looked toward the door. When he saw the boy, he smiled widely, opening his arms in greeting. "Andres!" Miguel called out, his voice warm like the morning sun. Andres stopped in his tracks, staring directly into Miguel's eyes. "Uncle, you really can see now?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with hope. Miguel nodded, never taking his eyes off the boy's face. "Yes, Andres, I see you clearly, every strand of hair, every smile. You look even more amazing than I imagined." He bent down, opening his arms, and the boy didn't hesitate to rush into his embrace. "You can see, it's a miracle," Andres exclaimed, his voice full of wonder. Anna stood behind, watching the scene unfold, her heart bursting with happiness. "Miguel, Andres has been waiting for this day for so long. Every night he prayed for you," she said, her voice choking, her eyes shimmering with tears. Miguel hugged Andres tightly, his gaze filled with gratitude as he looked at Anna. "Thank you, Anna. Thank you for everything." He released Andres, looking at the boy's radiant face, then teasingly said, "Now, let me see you play with your wooden car. I want to see everything I could only imagine before." Andres laughed, running into the yard, starting to roll the toy car on the tiles. Miguel sat beside Anna, his eyes full of joy as he watched the boy play. "This is a new beginning, Anna," he said, his voice deep yet bright, "and I will cherish every moment that this light brings." Not long after, the wedding of Anna and Miguel took place in an ancient church in the city.
as golden sunlight like a thin veil covered the small village. Their yard had been beautifully decorated with string lights and wildflowers picked from the nearby fields. The fragrance of roses mixed with the smell of freshly baked bread, filling the air and creating a warm, festive atmosphere.
Miguel stood under a simple yet striking floral arch, his eyes never leaving Ana. She appeared in a modest yet elegant white dress, her hair gently flowing, adorned with a small jasmine flower crown made by Andres himself. Andres, in his little outfit, stood beside her, his bright eyes sparkling with happiness. The boy looked at Miguel, a proud smile on his face, as if he had just become part of something big and sacred.
The vows of Ana and Miguel echoed, simple and sincere, not grand or boastful, just words filled with love. "Miguel, you have brought light not just to my eyes, but also to my heart," Ana said, her voice trembling with emotion.
Miguel held her hand tightly, his eyes welling with tears, but still shining brightly. "Ana, you and Andres have been my family for a long time. Now, I want to spend my life loving and protecting both of you." His words made the space fall silent for a moment. Only the gentle breeze blowing through the olive trees could be heard. When the priest declared them officially husband and wife, applause and cheers filled the yard. Andres jumped up, hugging both Ana and Miguel at the same time, his little face radiating joy. "Now we are truly a family," he exclaimed, causing everyone to burst into laughter.
After the ceremony, the wedding party was held in the yard. The wedding cake was simple yet sweet. Wine filled the glasses, and the sound of a guitar played by Miguel's close friend added warmth to the atmosphere. Everyone danced and laughed joyously, as if the entire village was celebrating in their happiness. Miguel held Ana's hand, and they stood at the edge of the yard, watching Andres run around, laughing and playing with other children. "We've overcome all challenges to get here," Miguel whispered, his gaze filled with love as he looked at Ana.
That's right, Ana replied, resting her head on his shoulder. And this is just the beginning. A new chapter for the three of us.
In the fading light of the evening, their small family shone like a lighthouse, illuminating hope and faith for the future. They had found the light, not just in Miguel's eyes, but also in their own hearts.